Well, it's been 28 days since fighting began affecting lives in both Israel and Gaza. With an uneasy three-day ceasefire in place, both sides are today counting the cost. Israel says more than 3,000 rockets have been fired from Gaza into Israel since the conflict began. 3 Israeli civilians have been killed, as well as 64 soldiers. In the Gaza Strip, the worst affected areas sit within a 3-kilometre buffer zone along the Israeli border. Recent satellite images show some of these areas before and then during the conflict. This is the area of Atatra. Beit Hanun has also been badly damaged. Residents there returned to their homes today to find scenes of devastation. In all across Gaza, the UN has so far provisionally identified more than 10,000 damaged or destroyed buildings. But the human cost is the most startling. The UN estimates that almost 1,800 people have been killed, with almost 500,000 displaced. Well, as we arrived into Gaza earlier on today, it was a very different place to the city that Paul Mason had been reporting only yesterday. People were out on the streets taking swift advantage of that ceasefire to get to the shops, to buy provisions and to go to their homes. The UN says many of those schools where hundreds of thousands of people have been staying are starting to empty in places as people find they can return home. But that is a long way off for many, many of those people. And earlier today, I went to Beit Hanun, one of the most devastated areas in the north, to see what damage had been done. After 4 weeks cooped up and terrified, they poured onto the streets today in Gaza, a chance not just to stock up, but to take stock of what has happened. In Beit Hanun, near the border with Israel, they were pounded by tanks and missiles. Israel says it was targeting Hamas fighters. The people here say they were just civilians. The Kafana family were picking through the rubble of their home of 30 years. This is where your family stayed?
Yes.
How many people?
About 10.
10?
Yes. You can see.
What will you do now?
I can't see anything.
Where are you sleeping?
I don't know we don't have anywhere.
Her sister, Maisara, arrived and took me to what's left of her house. And this is your building. Can you show me?
This to my aunt's dear. This is to my brother. And the second floor. And this two my brothers live in it. One my brother and it.
What?
This is to my uncle's daughters and sons.
Was there any Hamas here?
What?
Hamas were here?
No.
No rockets?
No.
You can see the Israeli border from the Kafana family home. But after 4 weeks of this bombardment, they're left with nothing but anger and bitterness for their neighbours. Maisara introduced me to her sister-in-law.
I will not forgive them. They're our enemy. They've destroyed our lives.
The destruction is just astonishing. It's like an earthquake has hit here. And within a few hours, people have poured onto the streets to try and salvage what they can. And this team behind me are looking for bodies under the rubble. There were 2 men buried under these remains. Again, the local people insisted they were civilians. Were they fighters?
We have no fighters here. Everyone who died was a civilian. No fighters died here. Thank God the fighters are still alive.
But there are other victims of this war in desperate need of help to stay alive. We've heard about a family who've lost their home in Beit Hanun and are now staying here in this UN school in Jabalia. They have a 3-year-old who's got some very extreme medical problems and needs to be taken out of Gaza for an urgent operation. The fighting has meant cases like this have been held up. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. No, it's fine. Hala has a congenital heart defect that needs surgery, and that can't be done here. A local and British charity are working together to try and get her medevaced out. When she is tired, she is completely dying, said her mother. Without this medication, she will be gone. This corner of a classroom shared with 60 people is not just home, but hospital ward too. Every person has their corner. This is mine, that's my brother's. This place is affecting my daughter, he said. Hala is one of many who desperately need medical help here in Gaza. But for her, at least, there is now a chance to get her out during this 72-hour window. The question across this region, though, is, will the ceasefire extend beyond that? Well,